Good Tavach, Shavua Tov. Welcome, folks. As we continue, just a review of the Maimer Ach Begeiro Yechalek Aretz. Only through the lottery you shall divide the land. Three things that were involved in the division of the land. It was rational, it was based on divine prophecy, and on a lottery. So the fact we can explain to our animal soul, meaning we can rationally appreciate. What can we appreciate? Going into the land of Israel means you're going into deal with life. And from the desert into Israel, it's a come down, like the soul coming down into this world. It's a come down. It's called the Yerida. But God is all good, and therefore the intent of that is only that there should be a greater ascent. We come to a greater place. Right? So all of the rocky terrain of life that conceals on the godliness is only the pure water should come from the depths of the earth, for example, right? The fact that I'm black, I have black darkness in my life, I'm beautiful because my soul comes from B'nai Yerushalayim, comes from a completion. And when I know that I'm connected to my source, so then just like the waters are connected underground to their source, when you're connected to your source, that challenge that you're going through, that dip in life, is going to bring you to a higher, greater place. And in that challenge, your soul never has to really be affected. It can be your body. As the previous Rebbe said, your body went into exile, but not your soul. We see that, our soul is affected by the environment of exile, of the challenge, of the difficulties, right? Well, if we follow the fact, if we make the soul's experience real for us, in other words, what we're going through is divinely orchestrated, and what I give to this moment will make it eternal. If I give to, when I give to this moment, a mitzvah, right? And I do what's needed, what God needs from me, and I understand that that's permanent. There's a permanence in that. Therefore, there's an eternity to it. In that moment, because you're doing what Hashem needs from you in that down moment, in that yerida. This is something that we can understand intellectually, rationally, so much so that the animal soul will appreciate this, and it will have a calmness. The animal soul is one, survival, physical survival, emotional, psychological survival. And when you're coming into a place that naturally is a dip, a down, It's a dark place, a concealment of the divine light. So the animal soul is going to have anxiety. It wants to survive it. Now, however, that will express itself, that survival, right? Flight or fight, right? That's usually that's what survival is. Either you fight for survival or you flight, you run for survival. Again, emotionally, psychologically, we don't mean physically here, just in whatever difficulty. So there's not fight or flight. There's an acceptance that this is meant for me. It's all good. And now it's just what mitzvah do I give to this? What's the action that I need to? That's something that we can speak to our animal soul that wants to survive and give it menuchas hanefesh, give it some tranquility. I don't have to fight or flight. I can deal with it. So not only is your godly soul not in exile, but your animal soul is not in exile. It's very powerful. Now, if you haven't reached, if you can't reach that, because this means that there's a tranquility. That means that's tranquility, anxiety. That's emotions, right? So it's a tall order to be able to reach that. That we have tranquility. So what if you can't get there? So, especially before Mashiach's coming, we're not such lofty, and such um, capable individuals. Um, so the fact that this truth, in any yerida, any come down, any descent that is in fact for the ascent, right, is only that you come to a higher and greater place in life. If you want this and desire this aliyah, right, and therefore the tranquility that the animal soul experiences, it doesn't need to fight it or to run from it. Through this itself, you're there because you think it. As we know, the Baal Shem Tov's teachings and the thoughts of the person, that's where the person's found, right? Okay. Yeah, but maybe that's not going to give me the tranquility. Maybe it's going to help. Sure, it's going to help because you think it. But thinking doesn't mean you feel it, right? But the fact that you do think this way, in other words, what you're doing is you're not allowing your your animal soul's desire to fight or flight, to think that way, even though you might feel that way, right? So since you think that way, but yet, there's going to be things that are going to be disturbances. Um, Things that will conceal from allowing this to, right? The fact that you think it, thinking as a garment, right? Garment isn't you, something on you, but it's not you. It's wonderful you're thinking that way and reframing and, but still there are things that can affect you and throw you off. So therefore, you need to, you have to daven mitei cheved rosh. You have to pray to God. It's called, as our sages say, with a heavy head, is literally meaning a seriousness, is the simple meaning. The deeper meaning is um, when you pray to Hashem with a seriousness, with um, standing before God, sensing God's presence that you stand before, and then that will help to mitigate, to nullify all the things that are confusing you and derailing, because there's a sense of God's presence, as in prayer there is. So through prayer, that presence will help you to nullify those negative thoughts. Especially when, as the Maggid says, that prayer should be done for the sake of God, because the sake of our soul is a part of a God. So we have the capability of 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 praying in a manner that it's not for my benefit, but for God's benefit. When we think this way, in other words, that our thoughts are in this elevated manner, right? In other words, whatever challenge that there is, I'm not feeling the weight of that challenge, and therefore it's it's bringing me down. I'm sensing I'm I'm thinking, and when I pray, I have the presence of God that allows me to do away with anything that might mitigate that, right? Any feelings that might mitigate that. Then I am in the aliyah. I am in the ascent. I'm there. Um, so through that thought now, interesting. In a sense, thought, since thought in its nature is not rational, right? Intelligence is rational. But thought itself, because I can choose my thought, right? So it's the 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 context of thought is something beyond rationality, right? Because you could think whatever you want. I could think in my mind right now, there's a pink elephant in this room. That's not rational. That's below rationality, right? But I can think that what I'm experiencing right now, that is a dark place, covered over, uh, something that's a downer, isn't, isn't. It's really an aliyah. It's really in a sense. I could think that way, which means it's beyond rationality. The thought itself, the fact that I think that way. Then from there, I'm capable to bring it into rationality. We're coming at this in a different way than the previous way we learned. Previous way we learned is that you can explain to even to your animal soul, to such a degree that there is um, a tranquility that the animal soul has. It doesn't need to act like an animal seeking survival merely. Right? It has tranquility in knowing that this experience that is a down is really an aliyah. It's really, its whole purpose is nothing but an ascent to bring me to a greater place. Very simple, right? I mean, simple. You can understand that intellectually, that your animal soul understands it. So much it will be tranquil. Here we're going the other way around. You're not able to do that, to bring that tranquility. So you can start by just thinking it. Thinking it it won't be enough because it's only a garment. It doesn't necessarily internalize. But if I think it together with the davening that I have the presence of God, that sense of presence of God, then from that thought that is not based on rationality, it's just based because you want to believe that. You want to believe it. You want that. You want it. So guess what? You're there because that's your thought. So in your thought, that's where you're at. Now it's beyond, but from there it can be then brought into, because you want that, then you can bring it into a rational place that can affect you internally, meaning emotionally. Is that clear? Meaning, what does it mean? That the fact that everything is according to the will of God. So this that I'm experiencing, this descent, this dark moment, this concealment, this difficult challenge is according to God, right? So that's something rational that you can then come to. And I was starting off just wanting that, thinking that way, you'll come to it rationally too. Tomorrow we'll include the mimer. All right, folks, we'll see you soon for Chumash Rashi. Thank you.